My name's Hannah Lytle. I'm 24, almost 25, and I am dating, so I guess technically single. Live by myself in Dallas and have no kids.
Drew Holly, also single with no kids.
My name's Lacey. I'm 26 years old.
Hi, my name is Clayton Pope, and I am 27 years old. I'm single.
Hi, this is William and Corey Moore. We are married with no kids and no pets. I'm 28 and Corey is
26.
I'm Winnie Gaines. I'm 28 years old, and it's just me and my husband are married.
I'm Jillian. I'm 28. Of course, we're married, and we're expecting our first child in 2 to 3 weeks.
Hi, we're Kim and Keith McSpadden. We live in Cedar Park, Texas, and we've been married for almost 10 years now. We have 3 girls.
All right, my name is Laura Jerkovich. I am 40-ish, and I am single. I'm divorced.
I don't use technology as much. I would say in a day I usually look at a Devo online, and then while I'm at work I'll look at some things on the internet, and then after that probably just Facebook every once in a while, and
Like once a week.
Snapchat, and like sports and different kinds of apps.
I usually look at different apps like BuzzFeed, BBC News, CNN. Yeah, I'd say I do listen to podcasts in the car. The main ones are TED Radio, This American Life. I'd say any historical or comedy ones are the main ones I listen to. And I don't listen to the radio. I tend to listen to my own music. I have a few thousand songs on my iTunes, so that's what I'm mainly listening to.
A typical day for me involves technology pretty much from the beginning of the day to the end. I wake up with my cell phone, and in the car I listen to either Pandora or 8 Tracks, which is a similar app, or I listen to the radio, some sort of sports radio. As I mentioned, I'm certainly surrounded by technology. I would say 90% of my waking hours.
It starts with my phone. It's my alarm that wakes me up every morning, and usually check it for news and things like that. Usually I'm on Facebook or some other social media. In the car, driving to work, I'll usually listen to the radio or a podcast or something like that. Then at the end of the day, I'll usually be on Facebook or something like that.
So I wake up with my phone. It's also my alarm clock. When I first get up, I usually check my emails. I have a daily devotional email that I like to read in the mornings. I usually look at Instagram, Facebook, the news. I don't have my phone out while I'm at work, so I don't typically look at it there, but before I go to bed, I usually look at my emails and Facebook and Instagram again.
I live by my phone. I wake up and I hit snooze a bunch of times on my alarm. Help me kind of wake up as I actually listen to podcasts, and so I typically listen to marketing podcasts. Donald Miller's Story Brand podcast is a big one. Amy Porterfield, who does online marketing for entrepreneurs. I listen to Michael Hyatt, who's like a virtual mentor / guide. And those are probably like my 3 top ones. I also listen to a lot of health and wellness podcasts, things like I'll check my text messages, all of that. I'll continue listening to the podcast on my way to work. And then throughout the day, it's text messaging. I have a lot of group text, and I have email that I'll check simultaneously with email. So my work email might be on the screen, and then I might be checking my personal email through my phone. I also check a lot of social media, especially Instagram, because I feel Because since Instagram's like mostly mobile, I'll check that throughout the day as I'm exporting a file from Photoshop or something for 5 minutes, and I'll take a quick look at that. I'll make sure I actually check Facebook a lot because Facebook kind of keeps me in the know-how with everything that's going on. Email, I always read The Skim, which is a daily newsletter that basically gives you a rundown of everything happening in the world. So I am like most millennials where I don't own cable. I don't have cable at all, and so the way I get my news is not through a news channel. It's through social media. It's primarily through The Skim.
Then the first thing I look at is how many alarms I've missed and how many I still have left. And I actually do use Pandora. So I use Pandora or what is it, Prime Music. So sometimes I'll listen to that while I'm getting around, and it kind of helps me set the pace for the day. I listen to the radio in the car.
I wake up with my phone. That's actually the alarm clock that I use. I have multiple alarms. I usually snooze once or twice. Before I go to bed, usually just kind of look at Instagram really quickly. I'm on Snapchat sometimes throughout the day, depending on what I'm doing, or I may check other people's Snapchats. I'm on probably Snapchat more on the weekends. But I do check Instagram probably a couple times a week, and I look at BuzzFeed. I kind of keep up. I forgot to mention with the technology, I have XM radio in my car. I've had XM radio for like 15 years now. Would never give that up for anything. And I listen to usually either NPR or Joel Osteen has a station on XM. I'll listen to usually some sort of kind of talk radio on the way to and from work. My kids, I listen to Radio Disney or some of the other stations.
Family. I listen to Focus on the Family, like daily podcasts, like every day. I have that app on my phone. I do that while I'm getting ready in the morning.
Yeah.
A lot of books, relationship books. Yeah. We get a lot of those sent to us from just like mentors or family. So we read a lot actually in our marriage.
Yeah. I use Right Now Media.
I would say that I probably do go online, like pick out preachers that I really like and look at some of the things that they have, like Matt Chandler. Drew looks at Right Now Media, so sometimes he sends stuff to me. Reading a Tim Keller book, just lots of different places, but I would say that like online is probably where I get my greatest amount.
Most of the time I'd say history, and I asked my family or friends from advice, but I kind of just figure it out on my own.
My standard is going to either Google or YouTube. I read books occasionally, but even those books I read are on my Kindle. So
usually use things from our church, books or things that we might be going through with a class or a small group or something like that.
Kind of a podcast junkie. I have a bit of a long commute, mostly just my mentorship relationships.
And then I'm just a constant Googler. So
I'm quite the Googler when it comes to looking up resources for that.
Listen to the radio on the way home, and depending on the time of day, there may be different programs that would have resources that I would use for dating or for marriage, life, and family. Some examples of those is Family Life Today and Focus on the Family. Those come on. If I end up getting off work late, then that's on KLRC as I'm driving home.
I read quite a bit, and so I may see a book in like Lifeway, or we have a family Christian store here. Look at resources there. Love Andy Stanley's podcast, and honestly I have a Roku which has a North Point Online, which is Andy Stanley's church, that I can plug into and watch previous sermons, as well as they have a live feed on Sundays that I'll watch at 10 o'clock.
Try to do the same church every Sunday when I'm in town. Try to make the church smaller than Arya's because it's kind of big and I like to know people.
So I'm probably similar. Do the church thing on Sunday, and I'm a member at the village and try to get more involved with serving it with the kids ministry. I do a home group every Tuesday, and then I lead a Bible study at work on Fridays. So
I am involved in a church. It's called Legacy Church of Christ. I'm involved in the young professionals group there.
We're pretty involved in our church, Christ Chapel Bible Church in Fort Worth, with our small group and the young couples families class that we're.
I attend 2 different churches. One's more traditional church, and one is more, I'd say, for community, more young adults.
It's a Southern Baptist church. And I didn't actually realize it was Southern Baptist until like 2 weeks of attending. But it has been a place that we've called home. What I actually love about it is how it has what's called a young adult gathering every Sunday morning before service starts.
We attend the Springtown Church of Christ.
The place that we attend is that you have your kids in the pew with you from infancy all the way up to the point that they pick their own pew with their own family. And I really think that there's so much value in that.
Yes, we're pretty involved.
Help in the nursery and help with activities that they have from special events and things like that.
And then her mom married the preacher, so we're kind of stuck with that church now. Even if we wanted to move, we can't.
I would describe our church involvement as active. We are pretty faithful goers. We do go on Saturday night instead of Sunday now, which I love. It makes it a lot easier for our schedule.
We love Focus on the Family.
Yes. I always joke that like 30% of my dad's paycheck goes to Focus on the Family, thanks to my mom. So we grew up very versed in Focus on the Family, and I listen to their podcast like twice a week. Really like their podcast.
I can't remember when, I was invited a few years ago to like or view the page on Facebook, and I noticed I had tons and tons of friends that had already liked the page. I would say that I'm not a very active Focus on the Family. Like, I don't check out the website all the time, although I wrote this down. I do enjoy the articles and the daily. There's this part that says daily, Family Daily, that I do enjoy, and I'm big into testimonials, so it's really cool to be able to see the different testimonials and lessons learned from different people.
I've heard of Focus on the Family. As a boy growing up, I remember reading the articles they would have sent out in a magazine. I haven't heard of them in a while, but I did right before this. I did look at the website, and I was impressed with the user-friendly nature of the website. I thought it was easy to navigate and was fairly seamless. So.
And we have heard of Focus on the Family. We aren't using any resources right now from them, but we both have grown up with different Focus on the Family resources, radio shows and videos and movies and things.
Currently don't use Focus on the Family for anything. On occasion, I might stumble on a Focus on the Family blog or article of some kind, but I don't use it anymore. Just as a preacher's kid, like, I always felt like I was having to be a certain way, and there was an expectation for me to be the good kid, so to speak. And I think a big part of that came from like, oh, well, my parents won't let me see this movie because Focus on the Family said it was bad, or oh, my parents won't let me do this because they saw something on Focus on the Family. I just remember just having like a really negative viewpoint of it, which is totally not fair to them, I'm sure. That's may not be their intention, but that's just kind of my viewpoint of it. Actually, I grew up, I guess in a subconscious way, I grew up kind of with this impression that Focus on the Family attributed to some of the legalistic upbringing that I had growing up, not in my family, but just in the church I was at, just in general. I just affiliate Focus on the Family with kind of the negative things that I experienced about church. I viewed it as I view it as a resource that is probably on the extreme conservative side, and doesn't. I never viewed it as a resource for maybe a resource for the tough issues. I just would think, okay, well, I'm not going to get involved with Focus on the Family because their view is probably going to be this way, and what I need is a very open, I need a very, just a more open-minded, tolerant viewpoint that shows me what the Word of God says about certain things without hellfire and brimstone. And the funny thing is, I'm sure if I went on Focus on the Family's website today and poked around, it may not be like that at all, and I probably have an extreme prejudice toward them right now, which is not fair, but it is why I feel just honored to be able to share this with you.
He's actually Googled Focus on the Family before. He does not realize that, though. I've heard of Focus on the Family. I've listened to their radio programs off and on.
Yes, we've heard of Focus on the Family. Our girls love the GG videos, and we've read some of the books geared towards raising daughters and strong-willed children.
Yes, I've heard of Focus on the Family. When we lived in Dallas, in the Dallas area, there was a radio station that was a Focus on the Family. I believe it was a Focus on the Family station. Had a lot of great content, and I would listen to it there. However, in Northwest Arkansas, I have not found, or there is not a Focus on the Family station or a station that runs consistent Focus on the Family content. I don't believe there's anything on XM either. If there is, I haven't found it yet. The resources that I've used from Focus on the Family against the radio station, I have looked online. I believe maybe there's even a magazine that I have gotten before. There are some discs that I have that I've listened to. I believe I have used them for movie reviews as well when I'm looking for things, certain movies, and want to see if the content's appropriate.
We both actually, Michelle kind of started it, so she listens to that podcast every day. We, on the radio, it comes on a lot. It's hard to find the channel, but most Christian radio stations will have like a snippet from Focus on the Family. So we listen to that a lot. So,
they're counseling if they ever have like a question about something or struggling with something. We'll use that number to call in.
Yeah. So we actually use like a lot of different stuff for Focus on the Family.
In the past, we've talked about family planning. It took us 2 years to conceive, and so there were some things that I relied on from Focus on the Family as far as, just encouragement and looking towards what God's plan is for you.
Well, right now it's like a really good thing for us because we're married. I feel like whenever we were engaged and dating, it was like not as applicable because obviously we weren't married, and so I don't know if they would ever expand that into podcasts for dating people. I think they have something called Boundless, so that might cover that area, but it's a lot more relevant now that we're married, so I don't know. I love what they do.
I don't know if there's a YouTube channel or not for Focus on the Family. That'd be pretty good. I go to YouTube a lot for sermons and that kind of stuff, and a lot of churches will have all their sermons will put on one little podcast or one little playlist. So that's really nice, a kind of a gathering place for it. I think that would be good to have like a YouTube section where you have different playlists for married people, for singles, for whatever target you're going for.
For me, being a young adult, single young adult, I think I would just enjoy seeing more engagement with young adults and testimonials.
In the future, what I would like to see from them is just continue to have a mobile-friendly app. I'm not sure if they have an app, but if that's not the case, then certainly that would be an effective way to reach people of all ages. Also, if they can do streaming content on either YouTube or, Netflix, or one of the more popular streaming services, that's really Hulu, right? That's really going to reach the biggest audience, as video streaming is so popular today.
Devotionals are different series for families, either related to marriages or becoming parents, be it, focusing on, fatherhood or being a mother, and different ways to develop spiritually as in those roles.
I think it would also be nice. I like to listen to podcasts, and sometimes it's hard for me to find podcasts for women that are spiritually uplifting type things. So I think that would be a nice resource to have.
I think the way that Focus on the Family could get my attention is relevance. Just show to me that you're relevant, and I think that most any millennial will probably say the same thing. I don't think I'm...
It would be nice to see something that's a little more accessible. I know that there's... I know I can stream live from my local radio station, so if I am tuning in at the correct time, then I can actually listen to the radio program. But I'm not terribly familiar if there's any apps available. That would be nice. And one thing that I've really enjoyed with some of my other automated things that I get is an automated email, and maybe being able to go in and select the different things that we're facing in life. So for us right now, it would be like work-life balance, and then like how to welcome a baby into the world. Different things like that. Topics would resonate with us right now. So that would be very neat to get maybe an email, or to get a reminder from an app. Hey, go in and either here's like a 5-minute coaching, or here's an article, here's some verses, anything that would be encouraging and tailored to where we're at in our life right now.
There's a possibility for an XM station, or if there's more widely available radio station content would be great. I don't know if they're on YouTube, but some sort of YouTube content, or an app with like podcasts would be really cool. Something that maybe even just 5-10 minute little sound bites if you're on the go would be really neat.
One of my biggest worries is just where the economy is headed, and just plain everyday safety for Americans and the hearts of those that are engaged in crime or violence, just those families and any people that are going through hard times. I worry about them. And then I'd also say my parents' health and the future of my spouse and kids. And
I would like to have my relationship with God be the very top concern in my life, and I want to always make room to read the Bible and grow. My second concern is just my personal development, not only physically but also with my mind. I'm always wanting to attain new skills, learn new things, so that I can be always relative to employers. I can always have a relative set of skills that are applicable, and so if I ever do need to prove myself, I'll be able to do that with, like I said, an array of skills that are marketable. And my third concern, I think, would be for my future family. I know that as I develop myself, I'm preparing myself to be a husband and a father, and so
money as we become homeowners, and the different things that come with that, the different expenses and things. We both have jobs now, and that's fantastic, but that's something that we definitely think about.
Our second worry would probably be just the future. When to have kids, where we'd send them to school, how we would afford these things, how we saved for all of this. That's probably would be our second worry.
And last was just as we transition with our friends and things in church as they have kids, and just how we fit in with them. And
my worries have come from being a female in the workplace and being a female in ministry. I have a very driven, goal-oriented personality. And so for me, it's hard for me to envision a future in ministry unless I branch off and do something on my own, or
losing Jillian during the birth. And number 2 would be losing Savannah during the birth. And number 3 would probably be concerns about the future of our country with an upcoming election and all the shenanigans that have gone with it.
So mine are similar. The top 3 worries right now is maybe it's just a little bit broader. What if we do lose Savannah while I'm trying to give birth, and anything that goes along with that, any complications that would go with that. After that, I would probably say, like, work probably is going to be a concern for me. How am I going to wrap up the last few weeks of work and then actually jump back in? I'm planning on taking a 12-week maternity leave, so how hard is it going to be to go back to work after being home for 12 weeks with our child? And then definitely it is highly concerning to see what changes are happening in our political climate right now, and the types of people that our daughter is going to be saying that we vote for and saying that our country has put into office.
So I worry about our girls, wanting them to be people that are kind to everyone and that make good choices, and they're strong-willed, so we deal with bad choices pretty frequently. And I also worry about my balance of work and family life, since I'm working full-time and really wanting to spend quality time with my family.
Yeah, that's probably one for both of us. And trying to balance the line between being a loving parent and being a disciplinarian, and trying to raise our girls to make good choices.
Or probably in the finance category would be getting my teenagers through college as easily as possible, or with as little debt as possible. Making sure that I can secure their educational future is probably top priority, top thing that weighs on my mind. Also relating to my kids would be their relationship with God and how they navigate kind of from late teenager to early youth, hoping that they stay close to God, connected to God, and on the right path would be another thing that I probably worry about. And then the last thing I would say is probably my own future once my kids leave the nest and go out on their own. I wonder, maybe not necessarily worry, but I wonder about, what doors are going to open for me and what that future may look like.
Okay, so the last point we want to, or an idea that we want to throw out to you is to continue working on changing the image, that this isn't your father's Oldsmobile, if you will, that this is for you now as a millennial. It wasn't just for your parents, or it wasn't just for you when you listened to Odyssey. And I know we can't afford a national advertising campaign on the major mass broadcasters, but I wonder if there's some way we could do a national social media campaign that just has some sort of a theme, that something like that over the next 2 or 3 years that focuses for you. It's not for your mom and dad, it's actually for you right now.
Yeah, overall great job on your content, and we're excited to see where it goes in the future.
The Lytles love Focus on the Family.
Signing out.